Hello, I'm Bill Jones. For those of you who don't know me, and I know a lot of you don't know me, but I am part of that silent majority. And I feel that as old as I am, and as many people out there who is as old as I am, we are going to have to get together and start to teach the youth on the ways of life and the ways of the world. I propose or I believe that our problem is ignorance. I think there's just so much ignorance in the world causing most of our problems. And what I want to do in my speaking out is to bring about some facts that I have not heard. I've heard a lot of things said about the conditions of America and the way things are going, but I have not heard any of the facts or the foundation of things and how things really worked and how things really are. So that's what I want to express today. And so, again, I count it all as ignorance. And trust me, if I could gather up ignorance, if ignorance was a solid and I could gather it up, I would devote the rest of my life to finding ignorance. And I would gather it all up, or as much of it as I could get, and I'd take it out into the desert in the dead of night, and I would bury it. And the reason that I would take it out in the dead of night so that I couldn't see any landmarks, so wouldn't know where I was. But if I ever got captured, I couldn't be forced to take anybody out to dig it back up again. That's how treacherous I think the ignorance is. So let me begin before I bore you to death. The police, I'll start with the police because they seem to be the focus of most of our situations today and our problems, and people are so angry at the police. The police is the most visible form of government that we have. And the police are doing a job that a lot of people can't do, a lot of people don't want to do, and a lot of people just don't feel the necessity of. But the police are very important. And the reason I want to start with the police is because everybody is blaming and hating the police, and the police are just doing a job. They raised their right hand and took an oath to protect and to serve. Now, when they violate that oath and commit a crime, then they are no longer police. They become criminals. So you can't blame the whole police department for one criminal's act. I mean, if a plumber go out and kill somebody, you don't hate all plumbers because they're murderers. So the police is the same thing. It is a profession. It is a job that people do, and they have chosen to do that job. Now, the foundation of that job is based upon what the city council and the mayor put into the ordinances and the laws of that city. The police does not sit around and make up the rules on what they're going to go out and enforce and what they're not going to enforce. Those laws are contrived by the city council, the mayor signs them, and then the police go out and carry them out. So when you're angry at the police for doing their job, you should be angry at the city council and the mayor. The police is just the visible guy again. He's just carrying out the orders. You don't shoot the mailman because you got a bad letter. He didn't write it. He just delivered it. I'm trying to give you a basis for looking at the police as people and human beings just like you are. So that is the police part. And when we just down the police and just degrade them and hate them, they're not doing anything other than what they have been instructed to do. And if they don't do what they've been instructed to do, then they no longer have a job. So when you are violating the law, the police has raised his right hand and took an oath to go out and stop you from doing whatever it is that you're doing. So you notice that there is this organization called Black Lives Matter who go out and protest every time the police are involved in an incident where a black person dies. The police, I submit to you, did not go out and select that person to kill. They went out to enforce the law. That person, being a criminal, refused to obey, submit, or succumb to the request of the officers, so a confrontation arises and it gets out of hand and the person ends up dead. The police didn't do that. That person did that. I've been stopped by the police before, and they are the authority. That's what they are. They are the authorities. So you just submit to them. And if you have a problem with them, you take it up with their superiors. And if it takes it, you go all the way to the Supreme Court. That's how we got search and seizure. That's how we got the Miranda rights. Miranda rights started right here in Arizona. Miranda versus Arizona. Because they needed to give him his rights. You know the rights. You have a right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney, and if you give up that right, everything you say will be used against you in a court of law. That came because they stopped a man. He didn't feel that they treated him right, and it went all the way through the system, and now the police have to give everybody the Miranda rights because of Miranda. Now, what if Miranda would have started a fight with the police and got shot and killed? Then we wouldn't have those rights. So I'm just trying to get to the basis so that you will understand that we are arguing and bickering and fighting and hating the wrong people for the wrong reasons. So we have to be wise, and we have to teach our children that the police is the only person that's going to come to their rescue when they get in trouble. Now, get off of the police for a minute, but I may stray back because it is so important to me, and it's so frustrating when I see and hear people, the police did this, and the police are only out there doing what they've been sent out there to do. That's it. That is all it is. So give the police the proper respect, and you can get along with them. They're just people. They're doing a job, again, that you probably don't want to do, or maybe you're not qualified to do. Somebody's got to do it, because without law and order, there would be total chaos. And total chaos is what we're seeing today. We're seeing chaos. And we're seeing that chaos because somebody wants that chaos. You see, America has been under attack for many years. America has been under attack, meaning that the system that America is based upon is not a system that all people want to live under, but they like it here because of the system. That's crazy. But they want to destroy this system. Why? You'd have to ask them. I don't know who they are. But we noticed that they took the Bibles out of our schools. They took prayer out of the schools. You can't take a Bible to your workplace. Those are just little things, little beginnings to get the system to a point where authority and law and order is being squashed. This police thing now is just, they're more blatant. And then we, again, get back to this Black Lives Matter thing. It is so obvious that that is a ploy to destroy this country. If black lives truly mattered, you would have to think that there would be more advances in black activity. They would be promoting more black opportunities. But the only thing they do is riot and tear down things when a black lawbreaker is arrested or hurt by the police. If you watch the news at all, you know that lately people are dying like flies. Black people are dying like flies. And you don't see a march, you don't hear a peep, unless they've been involved with the police. Now, what does that tell you? If black lives truly matter, they would matter all the time. And on Father's Day, the Father's Day weekend, my heart was ripped with 2 3-year-olds killed on the same day. And then research said that was the first time that ever happened in the history of the country, where 2 3-year-olds killed on the same day. But we didn't riot. We didn't burn nothing. Nobody's shouting. Nobody's crying. The last weekend, I think 8 children were killed. And we don't see anything. But if you let some criminal go out and rob a liquor store or rob a little old lady and the police have to chase him down, he fights and he ends up hurt or dead, your city is in jeopardy. They may burn it down because Black Lives Matter. So that ought to tell us something. And based upon that, I want to go to the background or again to the foundation. What are they saying? They are saying now, that's another thing that just rips me every time I hear this systemic racism. America has systemic racism. If America had systemic racism, then I believe that black people would still be slaves in America. Because it's saying that the system is geared against black people. And I don't know of any system in America that prevents black people from doing anything that anybody else does. I just don't see it. Are there racist people out there? Yes, there are racist people out there. White racists, black racists, Chinese racists, Korean racists, Indian racists. There's racists in every race. But we don't have to let that be our guide. We don't have to let that be our motivation. We don't have to let that be what influences us to function in our society. We can disagree with each other and still live together. And the blacks mainly, and I think I can say this because I've been black for a day or two. I thought I'd try it. But blacks need to understand that slavery is long gone and has been gone for many years. There is nobody alive today that was a slave. There is nobody alive today that owned a slave. So why is it that we're still harping on blacks being slaves? And here's a hot tip for you. I stand up every Sunday morning before a congregation and I preach the Word of God. And a lot of times I reference Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, if I hate slave owners, then I got to hate Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob because those guys had slaves. Which brings me to the point that I want to stress. Slavery was not based on race. Another ignorance that people just don't seem to want to bring out. Slavery was not based on race. It was not because people hated blacks and they wanted to keep them down. They took black because they were the weakest and most available. But you have to understand that those black slaves that came to America was already slaves in Africa. That's where they got them from. Reach back into your sense of reasoning and figure out if 30 or 40 men on a boat can go to a black continent and capture 300 or 400 black people. How could they do that? I mean, sure, numbers would overwhelm them, and they don't know their way around, so they just got there. So how can they go over there and capture 400 or 500 black people and bring them back and sell them into slavery? No, they went over there and they bought them from the tribes that already had them. Here we are in America, the Native Americans, the Indians. They had slaves. The weakest tribes were captured and made slaves for the strongest tribes. It is the history of the world. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was friends of God, and they had slaves. And here we are talking about hating people because they had slaves, tearing their statues down. And that's another thing I'm going to touch on in any minute now. But just think of that. Every nationality in the world has probably been slaves at one time or another. But why are the blacks continually looking back at slavery? And if long as they continue to look back at slavery, they're not going to move ahead. You can't move forward looking back. And this is why I say that there is a plan out there somewhere for this to be happening. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be tearing down the statues and removing all of the references to slavery out of our history books. It's to keep the people from looking back and seeing the truth. Slavery was not based on race. It was based on economics and strength. That's just the way it is. And everybody was slave at one time or another. Get your books and read up on this stuff. Don't just be out there listening to what people are saying and following them. They're leading you down a path of destruction, and the country is so divided now. My scripture says a house divided cannot stand. So America is doomed to fall. And when America's fall, then you won't hear anything else about slavery or Black Lives Matter or none of that, because you'll be too busy trying to find food and trying to defend yourself, trying to preserve your lives. You don't hear this kind of stuff in third world countries. They're too busy trying to eat and to keep shelter and to make life matter. But we are so blessed in this country, which is another thing that the people need to look at. They need to look at the history books and see what the black people did when they came out of slavery. The black people came out of slavery, hit the ground running. There is more black inventions than I can name or think of. But you have to read up on it and find it. Black people have gone backwards because when they come out of slavery, they come out climbing, reaching the top. And now they're running around living in ghettos talking about the white man is holding them down. I keep saying them and the, as if I'm not one of them. But I'm saying because I'm not. I have never been held back from anything. I have always done everything that I have wanted to do because I was not brought up to look back. My mother, a single parent family home I grew up in, never once told me that somebody was going to hold me back. Never once told me that anybody was better than me. Never told me that. Always told me you have to work to get what you want. That's all I've ever known. That's all I've ever done. And my kids, the 4 of them, I never told them anything about being held back because I never knew anything about it. Now, you might say that I'm naive and, oh, he's an Uncle Tom and he's this. Well, maybe I am. But I tell you one thing, I don't have that hate. I don't have that baggage. And I'm glad I don't have that baggage because I can live with people of all races and of all kinds and never once think that they don't like me because I'm black, because I don't care. There's a lot of people that don't like me, but I don't care. There's nothing I can do to make them like me for whatever reason they don't. I just continue to walk in love and peace because that's what makes me happy and that's what gets me to where I want to go. And that is what we have to do as a people. Find out where you want to go and focus on that. But if you keep looking back, talking about who was a slave and who wasn't, you're never going to get to the end of it because, again, every nationality has been slaves at one time or another. But black people are the only ones who still standing around looking back, talking about somebody did something to them. And here's another hot tip that always kind of I have to choose my words carefully. But anyway, it kind of tans my hide is that blacks got to have a leader. the black leaders, Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Martin Luther King, all of these black leaders, if they're black leaders and can get things done for black people and they're just as black as I am, then why do I need them? Why come I can't do it? If they can do it, I should be able to do it. I think if a man hates a black man, he'd hate them just as much as he hated me. So why do I need a black leader to go somewhere and do something for me, when I could go and do it for myself? And then that way I could get the most benefit out of it. But if they go, then they're going to have to take something off the top, and I'm going to get what's left. We just got everything backwards, and I'm trying to present the truth, because it is the truth that sets us free. It is the truth that sets us free. And we need to know the truth. We need to understand that we are all on this earth together. God created one man, just one. He did not create a Caucasian man, then created a black man, then created a Hispanic man, then created he created one man. And every man that walks upon this earth descended from that man. That ought to tell you something. So once you skin us all down and look what's on the inside, it'll all be the same. There's nothing inside of me that is not inside every other man. So why should I hate? Based upon the love of God, why should I hate? If God so loved me that he was willing to die for me, who in the world am I to hate another man because he's a Caucasian man, or because his forefathers owned slaves and my forefathers were slaves? It's just crazy. It is insanity. But it is ignorance, because we don't know any better. And we don't know any better because we don't learn any better. And there's nobody out there to teach us any better. So again, I may be rambling and ranting on, but this is serious business, and I think that we all need to come out and speak about it. And here is the proof or the measure of a man who really believes that Black Lives Matter. I bet a lot of people don't even know it. But there's a philanthropist by the name of Robert F. Johnson. Look it up. You got your computers. Look him up. He did the speech for Morehouse College this year. And when he finished the speech, he announced that he was going to pay the student loans for the graduating class. Now that's a man who believes that Black Lives Matter. He put his money where his mouth is. He paid the tuition and the student loans for all of the graduating class because he gave the commencement speech. Now you see, Black Lives Matter to him. He wants them to go forward and to do something positive with their lives. And as they go forward and do something positive with their life, they won't have time to march or to protest. But that's what he did. And since you got your computers out and your laptops, iPhones, or whatever you use to glean information, check the black millionaires that are in America today. And you will find that there is quite a few of them. And with that in mind, you got to figure if the Caucasian people or the white people are holding the blacks back, boy, they're doing a poor job of it. Because, I mean, well, look at the NFL for an example. There's a good thing that everybody knows about. Or the National Baseball League, or Basketball League. All of those black players on there, 9 out of 10 of them are millionaires. They have $1 million contracts. So all of those fellas are millionaires. So when you're sitting there watching the game on Sunday and cheering, that's a millionaire that you're cheering for. And he's black. And wow, you thought somebody was holding people back. Ignorance. We have got to get rid of the ignorance, and we got to know what's going on in the world and stop listening to people who stir up confusion and chaos and send us out to fight against one another so that they can conquer the world. This is the tragedy. And this is what we need to fight against. And this is why I'm sitting here making this video today. I think that it's time for the silent majority to get out and speak and try to enlighten people. So the few things that I know, I wanted to share them with you. I wanted to share them with you. I wrote a book back in 2008, I think. Yeah, 2008, called The Will of Man. The Will of Man. The premise is that man has a will, and whatever he will to do, that's what he will do. So you see, nobody can hold you back if you make up your mind what you want to do. And that goes for every race. If you make up your mind what you want to do, then that's what you will do. Back to those police officers. They made a decision. I want to be a police officer. So they went through the training. And the training is rigorous. It's not a walk in the park. It is mental stress, physical stress. And so, but you have to pass tests and you have to qualify. Doctors, they decide I want to be a doctor and they go be that. That is why we have every profession, firemen, teachers, whatever you can think of, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, whatever you think. Those are people who had a desire to be an auto mechanic when they grew up. The will of man. You can be whatever you want to be. So if you're nothing, you had no desire to be anything. So this is what we have to look at. The people who have the time and are out there protesting and running around breaking in stores so that they can get free stuff, that's what they will to do. That's what they desire to do. It is simpler and easier for them to go out and do that than to get a job and be a contributor to society. And that's just the facts. They choose to be burglars and arsonists and disruptors. People who choose a career path, they follow that. So I'm just, again, asking you to just stop and think. There's so much education out there, so many educated people, but they don't have one iota of common sense. They don't stop and think. They hear and they act. They hear and they act. They don't stop and think, well, wait a minute. If Black Lives Matter, how come that 3-year-old child didn't get a protest? Why weren't there people knocking on doors and complaining about that 3-year-old? Why is it just this guy who was fighting the police? Why are we just out there burning stuff down for him and making him a hero? Everybody knows their names. Everybody knows their name. But not one person will utter the name of Shania Gilmore. Shania Gilmore is a 3-year-old in Baltimore that got killed on Father's Day weekend. And Mikhail James, he's one that got killed in Chicago. 2 3-year-olds the same day. That's heart-wrenching stuff. To see a people destroying their own property, their own neighborhoods over a criminal. And then when an innocent child dies, nobody peeps a word. And little Shania Gilmore, her mother was even killed. And she was 8 months pregnant. So there's 3 black lives right there in one incident. Cat shot them all, killed them. And nobody said a word. Nobody don't even know who they are, what they are. Again, all of these educated people out there, Princeton graduates, Oxford, Harvard, all over the world, these institutes of higher learning. And when you bring them some truth or some information and it disagrees with what they believe and what they've heard, they will tell you, oh, I ain't got time to listen to that, because it's the truth. They don't want to know the truth. They know what they know, and that's what they want to carry out. So people, be blessed. Be blessed. And stop and think for yourself. You be the captain of your ship. You be the one who decides whether you go north, south, east, or west. Don't just hear somebody say something and then run out and head in that direction. It's not rational. And if you stop and think about it, you'll know that what I'm saying is true. God bless you. And may we all live long and prosperous, happy lives. But we need to think, and we need to take care of one another and look out for each other. God bless you. And I might do this again. It's kind of stressful, but I'll try. Bye-bye.